Okay, I have 5:30. We'll call this meeting to order. Actually, I have 5:31 PM. We'll call this meeting to order at 5:31 PM. Thank you, council, for being here. Shannon, would you please do roll call?
Mayor Rodham,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Perry,
Here.
Councilmember Caffey,
Here.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Oliveris. Here. Councilmember Starnes.
Here.
Councilmember Melton.
Here.
You would please stand and join me for the pledge, followed by the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Melton, do you have a?
City Manager Kelty tonight.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, this beautiful day. This is a season in which we remember all that we need to be thankful for. Lord, we ask that you continue to bless our families and the city of Rockdale. Lord, it's also a season that we begin to celebrate and remember your coming into the world. Lord, you give us the grace through your birth and through your life. Lord, let us always live that grace and take responsibility for it. Lord, bless this meeting, all the decisions that are made here, all the discussion that is had. Let it be favorable and consistent with your will. Lord, we ask all of this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tim. Item 4 on the agenda, citizen communication. Shannon, do we have anyone sign up for any citizens communications? No? Thank you. Moving down to item 5, resolutions. Item 5A, consider and take any necessary action on the resolution authorizing submission of the CDBG grant to the Texas Department of Agriculture and committing to local match. Tim?
So we received a request a couple weeks ago about an invitation about the opportunity to apply for community development block grants funds, of which the city is eligible to apply for up to $750,000. There's no match requirement, but the more that we match, the better our chances of getting the grant. I am recommending a 10% grant match for $75,000. This funding could be used for a number of different projects. Primarily on this, I'm looking at street resurfacing of San Gabriel from Thrall Street to the north end. This is being done kind of in preparation for the housing project that the Housing Authority is working on, and that's who the request came from. We can also look at water and sewer infrastructure needs in that area. And then if there's funding available, I'd also like to have funding used for the reconstruction of Texas Street all the way to 79 that was discussed at the last meeting. So that application deadline is December 9th. We'll be working with Langford to submit that application. There is no cost to do that. If we are successful and they invite us to submit for the full round, it pretty much guarantees funding, and that would be due, I think, later in March or April. So it does require the resolution that's attached, and if that's adopted, we'll send that to Langford to include with the application.
Who's Langford?
Langford is our grant consultant. They've
That's
helped
who
us.
we hire or we work with for grants?
Yes, we've worked with them on a number of different grant applications here.
And if we were approved, if we applied for and were approved for these grant funds, when would that money be let? This year?
Yes. it would be
This
later-
budget year?
This budget year.
Okay.
And is there a set fee for them to do the grant?
There is, for the grant, although it's payable out of the grant funds, it's pretty much set by the program.
Okay, it's like a percentage or a flat rate or?
Yes, and we'd actually have to go through at that point, if we're successful with the preliminary application, we would go through a formal procurement process for grant administration, and they would have to compete for that.
And it doesn't have to necessarily all be at these street. You said, like I said, even though they requested us to put in for it, we could delegate over to Texas Street or another street or something like that.
Yeah, so in the preliminary application, we'll just say for streets and other infrastructure. When we've put the full application in, we'll have to designate which streets, and so we'll have to get cost estimates, specific cost estimates on each improvement that we're proposing.
And those, when you're doing this request, do they ask for pictures or anything like that?
Not in the preliminary application. I don't know, but probably they will include pictures in the full application.
When is that timeframe, the full application?
March, April is when the full application will be due.
December 9th.
They have not yet announced that deadline, but that's when Langford said that would probably take place.
When was the last time we were awarded this grant? Do you know?
We got a Texas Department of Agriculture grant just recently, actually, for the East Cameron Lift Station replacement. That was just this year, earlier this year.
And do you know if this, just thinking long-term, if you're awarded one of these grants, does it kick you to the back of the line for the next go-around? Do we need to strategically be
There is
figuring out when we want these?
well, there is the more grants that you get, the lower score that you get. Because we've already received one grant, we get a few points less than if we had zero grants. If you get two grants, then you're gonna get a little bit less, and the 3 grants, you get a little bit less, and then after that, it doesn't really matter,
Okay.
so.
And are they always 750,000 maximum?
I don't know the answer to that. It really depends, and the fact is, here's another matter. One of the concerns that I have is the city has been very, very blessed to get a lot of grants in the last several years. With the new federal administration, if they start cutting federal agencies, grant monies may start to dry up as well. So, I
Is
really need to get it while we can, I would say.
750,000 the max amount we could request?
750,000 is the maximum you can request.
Okay.
And are we, the more you're willing to match, the more you're willing, or the more it helps your odds of
Yes,
getting?
up to 10%.
So 10%
10% is the max.
Maxed it, well, good.
Okay,
10% is the max
Okay.
score on match.
okay.
So even if we scored it, if we put $750,000 in to match 750,000, we would not score any more than committing 75,000.
And we're confident in our budget constraints or lack of constraints,
Here in
that we
the
have
city?
this money there to,
We'll
without,
be able to, yes, so we'll have to do a budget amendment for that.
okay,
But we do have funding available.
okay. Council, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion on this item from council.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the submission for the CDBG grant for the $750,000 with a $75,000 match.
Second.
A motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 5B, consider to take any necessary action on a resolution requesting Milam County to proceed with the purchase of the 800 megahertz radios for the Rockdale Police Department. And that should also read for the Rockdale Volunteer Fire Department. Well, the county's gonna do that. I take that back.
Yes.
Yeah, that
So,
changed.
as I explained this, so the county is proceeding with a change order over to an 800 megahertz radio system countywide. And Milam County is one of the last counties in this region of Texas that is making that switch. A dozen or so years ago, there was a change from analog radios to digital radios. And we made that switch, and that was far better than the analog radios. I think the 800 megahertz system is even further advanced in the radio communications situation. But what this will allow us to do is to communicate city to city, city to county, and also we'll be able to communicate with other counties in the region as events are unfolding. The county's project is well over $10 million that they're working on, and they were originally asking the cities of Rockdale and Cameron and Thorndale to participate to the tune of $1.5 million or $2 million each to make this project happen. They have since backed down, and they have agreed to accept responsibility for all of the infrastructure necessary for this countywide system to be installed. So that would include all the antennas, and transmitting equipment, the dispatch consoles, and all of the heavy infrastructure. They've also agreed to provide all of the volunteer fire departments in the county with the necessary radios. They're not providing all the radios that each department might want, but they asked the departments to come up with a number that they could live with, and they will be providing those. But they are coming to each of the cities and asking us if we want to have our police departments participate, and purchase mobile and handheld radios. The mobile radios are the ones that go in the car, the handheld the officers carry with them. I asked the chief how many he thought we would need at this time. He said 14 handhelds and 14 mobiles. And the cost of that, they will be ordering, they're actually in the process of ordering that equipment now. And the first bill that we would have to pay would be in January of 2026, so not till next budget year. So we would have to include it in next year's budget, but it's $27,000 a year, $27,700 a year for 10 years for that equipment. And then as the department grows, if we have to add more equipment, we'll have to buy those mobile radios and handhelds independently of this. But they're getting a pretty good deal on those radios, because of the buying everything in bulk, and under the competitive procurement that they're working with. They've got the prices locked in, I think, until the end of the year.
So each handheld one is $11,000.
Yes.
The handhelds were more expensive than the mobile because they're smaller and the
That is I'm just asking silly questions. He dropped one in the field and we can't find it. Is there insurance on these things, or?
That's a good question.
Currently, there's not been, at least with the fire department, I can answer
I'm
confidently.
all for this, but I'm going, it's $11,000.
I'm with you, Brad, and
I mean, so
I
what can we
think, Lynn,
find?
you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when is the last time we purchased radios like this?
We did it a couple of years
A
ago.
couple years ago.
They weren't 800 megahertz. but
They weren't,
That was-
right,
yeah.
but a significant amount of them.
For their cars, because their cars were out of date or something, they
You
couldn't.
purchase digital equipment for the police department. The fire department continues to still operate on analog equipment. So
I'll
Fire
investigate.
department historically
Yeah,
has always,
that's what worries me, is like,
I'll investigate on the insurance
that
aspect
is a
of that.
lot of, I mean.
What's
people
a
lose
10-year?
phones all the time. These guys and gals are running and chasing people or what have you, just things get lost. That is a lot of money. I just want to confirm $11,000 for one unit.
that's correct.
It's actually
And I think that's a great thought.
What's that?
Brad,
For a
is
car? I mean,
insurance.
For setup, you're saying? or-
14 of them.
Oh, that's the
10 years,
14, yeah.
$19,000 a radio, that's all said and done.
Can y'all recall why we purchased that many 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago when we did for the police department? Were we upgrading at that time, or we needed more?
If I remember correctly, there was something about,
What was the technology? Was
yeah, there was something.
They went from analog to
like,
digital.
They were having, they couldn't finish their reports I think on the site, or there's all kinds of things. They couldn't communicate back and forth, so.
Because, I mean, if we're already 2.5 years later looking to purchase an upgraded system, well, this is gonna be 10 years that we're gonna be paying $27,000 on. And within 2.5 years, we're already upgrading. I mean,
Is there,
Well, we were actually behind,
We're behind the
we are
curve.
we're way behind the curve in going from the analog to digital.
True.
I mean, and actually, the 800 megahertz have been around for probably about 2 years,
Longer than that,
3 years,
5 to 10.
5 to 10 years.
We're just behind the curve as a municipality on upgrading to that level of a system. The reason we're behind the curve is two reasons. One, financial. Two, we've always been able to get by and accomplish what we need to accomplish with either the analog or the digital radios. But as you well know, as our city's grown, as our needs for outside agencies to come in and to support us on some things that unfortunately occur in our city, whether it's law-related or fire-related or EMS-related, our agencies are unable to effectively communicate with those other agencies because of all those other agencies are on the 800 megahertz.
No.
And that we aren't, so it hampers our first responders' ability to effectively communicate. And it's an element of safety too, in my opinion.
Understand.
We have incidents like we had a couple of years ago where you had multiple agencies involved in that shooting, you know, if they couldn't communicate effectively, puts our officers at risk.
Yeah. And the one here on College Street as well. Yeah. Council, any other Tim, would you investigate, please, if there's opportunity to purchase insurance
Yes, absolutely.
on these,
I got one other question. 10 years, technology they'll be at 900 megahertz in 3 years. What do we do there? We still got 7 years of payments on radios that are now
great question.
obsolete. What happens?
Well, one of the things in regard to that is that I don't know how upgradable these radios are. So you may not have to replace the radio itself, but I know that the county is investing, like I say, over $10 million in this 800 megahertz system for the 10-year period. We'll remain consistent with them, and I can't say that they won't abandon the 800 megahertz for something bigger and better, but they're gonna have that 10-year bill to a lot greater extent than the city is.
I'd like to see, like, in my mind, I've got to see something. I just really wish I could see what the radios look like and somebody give a presentation. I mean, I keep saying, that's 20 grand of setup. This got to be voted on tonight.
Well, the county actually they were actually supposed to award that contract by December 1st, at one of their previous meetings. They put it off until the 1st, and then they said they passed the resolution, and they said they would hold that resolution until the end of the week. So we don't have to, so they're gonna move forward.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not we want to be able to take advantage of their contract at the same time. Like I say, you know, we'll get the radios in, you know, I'm not sure when all that would be delivered, sometime this year. But we wouldn't make a payment until, our first payment until January of next year.
Just out of curiosity, is Milano and Thorndale, they got all, are they in
Sorry?
Buckos? Is Milano and Thorndale and the other towns, they got their.
Thorndale, I know Thorndale and Cameron are both participating. I don't know about Milano, how they're handling it, but
They
I know,
have a,
does Milano have a?
yeah, that's what they said. No.
Milano doesn't have a police department.
That's right, they have
So the
deputies,
fire department, it'll be paid for through the county.
which is good, that's good.
So it's really, you know, the cost is, as he said, it's only for our police department, which is a lot, right? Because it's a lot of radios. Fortunately, the county, initial thought of the county was to only provide our fire department $110,000. And we were gonna have to cover a huge amount for our fire department. But fortunately, the county reconvened over that and made, in my opinion, what was a better decision.
I see, Chiefs asked for 14 and 14, I believe, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we have 14 people on our staff,
We do, actually, that is,
do we?
yes, that includes the chief and the captain and, the two in, the CID and at the command staff and all of the patrol
About 14 cars.
officers.
That's the question.
So I want it, if he's listening, to hear me loud and clear that, yes, I want to give him anything he needs, but my question would be, if we need 8 now, and then we need 2 more later, can we add them as we need them versus having 14 of them that are ticking away at technology?
So we have, you know, we had 2 vacancies on the police department. We've had vacancies for a while. We actually have now, we're fully staffed. I'm happy to say now, we don't have them on the street yet because 2 of them are still going to the academy. Or actually, they're not yet.
That's awesome news, and I just want to say thank you to council for supporting that pay increase to our police officers. I think that was a big factor in being able to get our police department fully staffed, probably in the past 6 to 8 years, finally.
Well, the 2 new ones will start academy, I think, in January.
I understand that, but that is a huge step forward for the safety of our citizens in Rockdale. I'm not trying to change the conversation from radios to this. I think that's something that really needs to be recognized. that the good the council has done for the city in regards to those decisions.
But the 14 would provide all of our uniformed officers with the radio.
Okay.
As in the future, our department's gonna have to grow, the next year and the year after and the year after. For those, we'll have to actually spend money to get additional radios. Those radios will cost more than the ones in here, the $11,000 for the handhelds.
And one of the things that we provide our officers is, who question the vehicles, I can't remember, but we provide every officer a take-home vehicle, so there are 14 patrol units. Doesn't
the
seem like there
14
should be, but.
I don't think and this does not include animal control. The 14 does not include animal control.
Does the 14 include the school resource officers?
That's the,
No, it
County.
does not, because the city,
county handles the school resource.
actually, the county handles the.
So will they be equipped with the same technology through the county?
County,
The county.
they're county deputy sheriffs, so yes. Good question, though.
Not that we're gonna do this again for 10 years, but next time I'd like kind of a demonstration, maybe. Somebody come in and show us
As
this.
soon as,
Yeah.
if we go ahead, if we make the purchase, I will definitely have them in there. And I've been to a couple of meetings, they haven't had the
Probably
equipment there to
vote me off
demonstrate,
before
but they
10
have,
years, yeah.
there's a lot of paperwork about, the differences in the reception and serviceability that, right now there's buildings that you can go into that you can't use your handheld.
Is there any kind of operating agreement that we're gonna have to, it's gonna come 3 months from now to say, now that you got all your hardware, this is what it's gonna cost you to operate your hardware?
That's built into this cost.
Okay. That was-
It is upgrade, maintenance is included in that
Okay.
cost. But I will find out about the insurability of the equipment.
Okay.
It's definitely
Counsel?
something we can actually have under our TML insurance as well.
It might be under warranty.
Well, but the warranty wouldn't cover if somebody just lost it or they, fell into the water and into a pond. But that would be covered under our TML. That should be covered under our TML insurance.
Any other questions, council? No? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution requesting Milam County, or authorizing Milam County to proceed with the purchase of the 800 megahertz radios for the Rockdale Police Department.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? All in favor said motion, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Item 6 on the agenda, item 6A. Consider and take any necessary action on an agreement with Wassinger for rehabilitation of the airport well number 11 and installation of a new pump and motor. Gerald?
I was gonna say good afternoon, but good evening. How y'all doing? The newest well that the city has is well number 11. And about 2 months ago, the pump in the well failed catastrophically. It came apart, fell into the well. It was installed and put into service in 2014. So right at 10 years, it failed. We had to get Wassinger. Of course, we didn't know exactly what the failure was when we couldn't get water out of the well, but they came in and pulled the casing out, pulled the pump out, had to dig it out, and then there was a lot of broken parts and pieces in there that they got most of them out, but they still need to fish out some other things. And this particular agenda item is to replace the pump and upgrade it to by 200 gallons per minute with Wassinger.
What, Tim, you and I discussed potential opportunities of grant money from Post Oak Savannah. You were gonna look into that. What were you able to determine, you and/or Gerald, regarding that? Is there any opportunity for that?
Yeah, so I talked to Kent, is it Kent?
Gary Westbrook.
Gary Westbrook. And we're gonna be meeting with him to talk about whether or not, but the expectation is we'll be able to either use this as match for future grants, or we could submit retroactively for grant funding, to do this project. I need to, Gerald wasn't here last week when I talked with him, but we have to get it qualified for that funding to be able to do that.
Okay.
So I don't think that's gonna be an issue, but, it is something we're still exploring.
Is this total of 80, whatever it was,
75,000,
71.
83,270.
83,270.
But on the back side, there's a total
Yeah, so the
94,485.
so we've already paid Weisinger $22,650 for the work that they've already done at this point, pulling the well, disassembling it, inspecting it, cameraing the well. We paid them that $22,650, which is part of the 94. So really what we're looking at is the 71,808. And then if we want to upgrade the well from 400 gallons a minute to 600 gallons a minute, the $11,462. The MDD has graciously offered to pay for the cost to upgrade it to the 600 gallons a minute.
And so, but right now, our facility can only process the 400, is that correct?
It's permitted by Post Oak Savannah for 600 gallons per minute, but the pump that failed was a 400 gallon per minute pump.
I thought I read here somewhere it could still only do 400, is that, so we will be able to start doing 600?
Right, so the previous well that was there, had a capacity of pumping 400
400,
gallons a
yeah.
minute, but as I understand, it had, the well itself has the capacity to pump 600 gallons a minute if you had a pump and motor of that capacity.
It says the upgrade will not automatically increase the city's overall water capacity because we're still limited by the treatment capacity
That's what,
of the aquifer, so.
And I, again, when I wrote this, Gerald was out of the office, but,
Okay.
you know, one of the things that, so we can pump more water out of the ground than we have capacity to treat.
Right.
We're limited by how much goes through the,
Well, it increases our resiliency, and there is a discussion going on. Tim and I talked about it a little today about, in the near future, asking Post Oak Savannah to increase our allocation, daily allocation from 2 million up to maybe 2.5 or 2.75 million gallons a day. And this will help us to be able to do that. It doesn't help currently, but it would help in the future. So this increase in the motor size and 200 gallons a minute is well worth the.
so right now, the city has 5 active water wells, and, you know, 2 of those are smaller, 3 of them are bigger, and they typically don't all run at the same time. They do provide redundancy, you know, when you have a situation like this right now, that we have that well go down. Is there any other wells that?
We have another well that we have not been pumping out of because we had some silica coming out of it, and we haven't done anything to test that out yet. We can use it if we need to.
The quality of the
Broken
water.
screens? Are our screens broken?
Possibly, I don't know. I'm gonna have to, that's the next thing that, once we get this well running again, then I'm gonna have to get Wysinger to give me a price to pull and
I would
video that
encourage
one.
you, when you do that, because if, I may be wrong in this comment, but I don't think I am, Post Oak Savannah has a camera, and they may camera this well for you at no cost and save us $20-something thousand, this next well. So,
Okay, usually you pull the pump out and, so you can get down in there, but I'll talk to them about that
Okay.
if they can.
I mean, if the camera, I mean, camera may be a menial cost, right? It
it's
may be
min-
pulling
yeah,
the
it's
pump.
minimal
They won't
compared to
do
the
that,
rest
you're
of it.
right. Okay, I understand. I apologize for that comment.
It's okay.
is our water treatment capacity, it's gonna have to be increased to be able to utilize this pump to its fullest extent, is that?
Face value, our water treatment capacity is over 3 million gallons a day. So we could up our permit, and Post Oak Savannah, it's my understanding is that if the municipality like Rockdale asks for that and can show reasons why we need it, that they can't refuse us. So we can up our capacity by just asking them to increase the,
So our limiting our limiting factor right now is not, if we had the 600 gallon per minute pump, would not be our pumps, our wells, or our treatment facility. It would be what Post Oak
Permitted.
is allowing us to
our
pull.
permit is our limiting factor
That'd be
completely.
easy.
We're permitted, how much are we permitted for?
Right at 2 million gallons a day.
And we have the capacity to treat how much?
Just over 3.
And we can pump how much?
I think, well, you and I looked at that today, it was about 3.6.
Yeah, so,
That's with everything running, but then you don't have the redundancy and the resiliency. So, I mean, we couldn't pump 3.6 without having more wells, because you have to be able, there are requirements within Texas Administrative Code where you have to have the smallest 2 pumps in the operation have to be able to handle the entire what you need, not necessarily the maximum daily, but as to, so we couldn't run 5 and run 3.6 million gallons day in and day out and meet Texas Administrative Code.
so increasing the size would increase our redundancy and also give us more potential in the future if we apply for a greater permit amount.
And transmission will handle
Oh, yeah.
that much more.
Well, it'll handle the 200. I have not done a study or looked at what it was, but it's a force main from the airport, so it should handle plenty. 12-inch main coming from the airport.
Joe, when you first started off, did you say that the last pump lasted 10 years?
Yes, sir.
I would think if that well had the capacity to pump 600 GPM, we probably built the infrastructure around that, I would hope, when it was installed 10 years ago.
I wasn't here.
Okay,
I mean, like I say, the last one was put in 2014. I've been here since 2020, so,
I got you, okay.
And there's
Council,
how many
any
wells
other
at the airport?
questions?
3?
I'm sorry,
There's 3 wells at the airport?
3 wells at the airport.
Before we do anything, will MDA, or MDD, thank y'all very much
Yes, thank you.
for the contribution.
I'll play you right.
Certainly, please.
I'm gonna double down.
You got your checkbook and get a little higher.
Talk them out of anything.
No. No, we saw this as a terrific opportunity to spend just a little bit of money and to greatly increase the city's water capacity. I think the math that we were looking at was this, assuming everything else works, that going from 400 to 600 gallons per minute adds another 288,000 gallons of water a day. And so right now, the number that we've been working on is 500,000. And so being able to basically increase that by 50% really is terrific for our future water needs.
On average, how many homes would that be? Ballpark, I mean, I don't know.
I
What
don't.
does average homeowner consume? Is it
I mean-
3, it's not 300 gallons a day, is it, Gerald?
TCQ suggests 100 gallons per person.
Okay.
Depends on where you pick your data. 3 people is what KPA is recommending because of the growth is going to be in younger families and bringing children in. I think the state recommendation is like 2.6 or something. So it's between 250 and 300 gallons.
So this is plenty to handle any new neighborhoods coming in right now.
Yeah. Right.
So this move along would prepare us for the future starting now, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing I just want to point out real quick, because I know sometimes things get in the way and we all forget, the MDD is providing the match for the East Cameron Lift Station grant. That was $75,000. I can't remember what that was. We're also providing the match for the downtown grant, which that's the one that just went out for bid. That is also $50,000 to $75,000. I can't remember which one it is. And then the wells that we refurbed about a year and a half ago on Texas Street, we basically paid half of that.
Cool.
So your MDD hard at work for you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions? I'll entertain any action on this item.
I'll make a motion that council approve the proposal from Wiesinger in the amount of $83,270.
Have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion, raise your right hand. Motion passes. We're adjourned at 6:06 PM.
Thank you all very much.